For almost a year, I caught my wife sexting her closest friend's spouse. Okay. Ready to share this rollercoaster of a story and solicit feedback? So far, I've caught my wife sexting with exes twice, either with loud cackling, fantasies, or tick pics, and lying about meeting up with an ex. She is still in touch with everyone on social media. I discovered that there has been some gap between us in the last few weeks, and my attempts to discuss it have been dismissed. I see she's still following Tig, select X on Instagram, but I have a bad feeling. I'm really sorry about it. I checked her WhatsApp on her laptop and discovered she had been sexting with the husband of her best friend, who was 6 months pregnant with her second child, for at least a month. They were talking about having sex in the shower during our future vacation and made plans in a parking lot last month as well. I question her about it. She disputes it and claims I'm seeing things I'm not. I say, I have screenshots from the last couple of weeks of their chats ago, but for the last 3 weeks, she's been flipping between remorse and blaming me, telling me she's not a lapdog, begging for forgiveness and how I can never be trusted because I checked her laptop, and her best friend, who of course also got cheated on, has forgiven her in 2 weeks. And they are bestowed once more. I've notified her family, and while her parents are upset with her, they've also told me to quit being a child and grow up for the sake of them. Tonight, I took a seat with her and her. I want a divorce. I've had enough, and I'm also done with the story. I believe I overheard my girlfriend emailing selfies to her male therapist, pal. After requiring distance, my 4-year-old girlfriend and I are attempting to sort things out. I was under the assumption that it was just a space away from hurting, that there was a break. She stated that she had not done anything recently. I observed she was acting strangely and suspiciously on her phone. We were drinking hard together last week. When I arrived, I saw her text and quickly put the phone away. Finally, she admits to sending a couple of nasty SMS. I make her phone her best friend to tell her everything, and she is taken aback. She admits to having an addiction to attracting the attention of other men as a result of her low self-esteem. We've been together for 13 years, married for 7, and have 2 children. I've given her everything and given up much of my social life because she operates a dance school and is a part-time acting coach in addition to her normal teaching job. She insists it's just texting and that everything is still alive. She explained that it's part of the game to push each other. She admits to sending photos, but only with her eyes closed. Usually sees in multiples. She is also involved in a sex affair. Number 1, and discussing it with present sex to be fair and judging him worthy of her attention. She refuses to take him out of her life since she will not give up her friendship or her gymnastics job, which this guy also oversees, for the sake of the children. I reintroduced marriage counseling into the room, tucking it under the. Later, I discovered I was on pin from her compose and that some person I didn't know about, or recall hearing about being pinned, had a profile pic on her phone. And he reminded me of myself. It was only for a little while, but I noticed she was texting people for work, which is why pinning is important to me. As the night progressed, we became more inebriated, and she eventually went to the restroom and forgot her phone. This was after she had texted and then hidden her phone under her pillow several times. I couldn't help but notice that it was incorrect. I'm sorry if I infringed on her privacy. I was simply terrified. She was playing me and wanted to know whether I was delusory. She had been texting him about stuff like when an Uber threatened her. She texted and called me when it happened, stating she was watching Netflix when she was with me. Something about and suggested salmon on Sunday. Keep in mind, I am with her on Sunday night. And something about thank you for the card. Now, evidently, this guy lives 3 hours away in a separate state. I hear her come out and put the phone down, allowing the thought to fester. Fast forward to last night, when I took her out on a date. I was aware of the phone but ignored it. And keep in mind that she has given me no reason to be concerned. Then, after the movies, I realized she was being secretive with her, like she was running full speed away from me. And there were images from a conversation that had never occurred in the previous 4 years. Has she ever been a little secretive? We returned to the flat. She took a series of selfies and sent them to me, which I thought unusual because she never takes photos of me when I'm there. Plus, you took images before the movies to post for makeup. As the night progressed and the drinking progressed, she left again and forgot her phone once. I couldn't help, but I simply wanted to check if she snapped those pictures because she didn't put them on her story. And I didn't check to see whether it was sent to anyone else the night before she sent it to this person because I didn't want to be wrong. Then I added it's something you shouldn't have looked at. This is a problem. This is the first time this has happened shortly after we spoke, and she wished us a good night. I stated that I did as well. I only needed to ask and she'd tell me I'm stupid. So who is John? I ask. She chuckles and tells me that it's her buddy, a therapist, who helps her for free. That's what Facebook says, but I'm quite sure they do block me. They have one tag pickup from a long time ago. She says she understands why. When I asked her where we were, I didn't say hello. And then I made it about being worried about my position, and the rest of the night went smoothly and nicely, and I felt somewhat at ease. But there's that silly voice in my brain telling me something isn't adding up, and I've been cheated on before. And I believe my subconscious is attempting to protect me as a result of those previous relationships. I also feel like a part of her is not trusting her and is reading her messages. What should I do with this TLD? I started feeling nervous about my relationship when I discovered he was texting a therapist buddy. Then I went into her Snap and found she had sent him several damps of what I guess were just selfies of her narrative. 3I18M have been perplexed by my polarized thoughts toward an instructor/mentor. For years, 2 years ago, I was enrolled in a very rigorous history class, which I thoroughly enjoyed but rapidly realized I was unprepared for. As a result, I completely melted on the first 2 huge exams. My teacher saw this and scheduled a time for us to talk about it. I walked in expecting to quit the class, but I left with the impression that he had a completely different perspective on learning and progress than anyone I'd ever taught. I spent the rest of the year leading up to COVID talking to him frequently and transforming how I function as a student, with a lot of faith and hope. As quarantine began, we exchanged emails approximately once a week and had infrequent Zoom talks about how we function as people, hobbies, how we respond or cope with the position we're in, opinions about various news events, and so on. It's worth noting that none of these chats ever made me feel uncomfortable or overbearing. I believe I formed an unusual dependency on our chats, which appeared as emptiness throughout the summer. Once the class concluded, not the following year, I was no longer enrolled in a class given by that teacher. I made the most of the few occasions I got to speak with him. By this point, I had used far too much mental energy longing for lack of a better word, the sense of mutual understanding that pervaded our talk. Near the end of that year, I decided to go to counseling, and that's when I understood what I was feeling wasn't simply respect, but romantic attraction. When it comes to crushes, I tick all the boxes. There's a tense eagerness. When I chat to him, I get a strong pang of jealousy and FOMO. Whenever I see someone having a 1:1 dialogue talk with him, this used to embarrass me, and it still does to some level, but after a few therapy sessions, I recognize that it's a fairly typical reaction to someone who has had a significant impact on me. It helped for a while, but my therapist and I recognized that while therapy could help me characterize and normalize my sentiments toward him, it couldn't decrease or eliminate them. I was expecting it would go away when I took a class taught by him during my senior year of high school, reminding my brain that this is totally a teacher-student relationship. But nothing has changed thus far. I've outgrown any desire to build a romantic relationship with Slash as a person. Even if I were given the opportunity, I would not do it because it is clear that he has no interest to any student and does not cross any borders. That's how it's always been. Since the beginning, aside from being nearly double our age, he's already in a relationship, is almost certainly straight, and hasn't made a single questionable comment to me or anyone I've talked to. It perplexes me as to why this constant desire to interact with him has never gone away or even lessened. It's quite tough for me to open up to anyone about this. Even talking to my therapist was difficult, and I haven't informed my parents. So, for the most part, I've been working on my own. I thought about talking to my teacher about these feelings, but he's the type of person who would respond, "It's perfectly good." I've had this happen before, but I was badly affected emotionally as a result of it. It's a risk I'm not willing to take, especially because I'm still in one of his classes and can't take time and space away from him if it makes him feel truly uncomfortable. God, my parents, and my friends are all really supportive and present in my life. So it's quite unlikely that it's because of me. Even if this is a typical part of puberty or life as an LGBT person in a small school, it's become a significant enough problem that ignoring it and expecting it will go away someday is no longer an option. How do I go about trying to understand my emotions better? Should I approach him? Is there anyone else who has had a similar experience? Cecil Doctor struck up a friendship with a teacher, which led in me establishing a very one-sided romantic attraction that has lasted a long time and taken a toll on my mental health.